What's going on, everyone? Welcome back, Crazy for KV's RC. I'm Tim. Welcome back to my channel. We're on part 2 of the Vanquish VS4-10 Prodyce build, where I'm taking a VS4-10 Fordyce RTR and making it something that's more worthy of the Pro moniker, since the VS4-10 Pro is now discontinued. You saw in part 1 we made quite a few changes: transmission upgrades, axles, wheels, tires, foams, pretty much the whole 9 yards, trying to make this thing as reliable and as robust as possible. So I really don't have too much to do for part 2. We left off as I was finishing assembly on those HD44 machined aluminum housings from Vanquish. Those went together pretty nice for the most part. I will say the bearing retainer in the rear axle was extremely tight, the tolerance. I don't know if the bearing wasn't seated or I got it in there slightly crooked. I was able to get it fully seated, but I actually tried to pull it out to kind of reassess, see if I needed to just do some minor sanding or anything like that. First time I've ever had that issue with any of their aluminum housings. I have quite a few sets, and unfortunately I basically had to push it all the way in, fully commit, and then I used the screws and just slowly, about an eighth turn at a time, in order to fully pull that ring gear assembly all the way in to the axle housing. The mesh feels pretty good. I would say it's maybe slightly tighter than normal, but it does spin freely. Not sure what's going on there. If anyone else has had issues with HD44s and some of the clearances and some of the tolerances, leave a comment down below for sure. It's definitely something Vanquish should be made aware of. They typically deliver a premium product, premium build experience, but they do demand a premium price, so they've got to be held to that higher standard. I did want to pick right up where we left off. I'm in the middle of working on the transmission. I got the motor mounted loosely. We haven't put a pinion gear on there yet. And we went ahead and put the aluminum standoffs on. We got the aluminum motor plate right here. Everything's looking good. You can see that. The one thing I overlooked was that the spur gear, the slipper eliminator for this spur gear, is plastic. Every other Vanquish I've ever seen, that piece is metal right there. Obviously, cut some cost, I get it, but and immediately I was like, oh, I need to order one of those, but I think that I'm gonna keep this plastic for now. The reason being is that we've put machine gears in the transmission. Well, not yet, but we're going to. We got good machine gears in the axles. We've got, you know, steel drive shafts. We've reinforced most of the rest of the truck, and it would be nice for our fail point, to be a pretty cheap part. I don't know if you can get just this part, but I'll look into that and see if you can. If I'm not mistaken, you do get the plastic version of this in some of the kits, so I may have some spares, but it would just be much easier to replace this piece than to replace gears in the transmission. Drive shafts would also be easier, but this would be cheaper than a set of drive shafts. So it's kind of important sometimes to have a failure point. I don't think if I put aluminum here, I don't think we would really have any. We might break pins for the hexes, or that would probably be the next weakest point, would be, you know, pins in the transmission or pins in the axles. So that's what I'm thinking. That's why this is plastic and this is going in the transmission. One other thing before we get back to building, I went ahead and threw some scale hardware in. You need 1 pack per pair of wheels, and you end up with a couple extra in each pack. So yeah, I had some leftovers and I decided to put those on here. There were no issues with those fitting. They threaded right in, they cinched down tight. I did not put thread lock on those, just in case I need to get them out. I'm not too worried if a bolt or two falls out. It'll just probably look more realistic. Went ahead and put our drive shafts on the axles. And then we got the rear one done as well. You guys can see that there. Better camera here. These axles look good. This is, you know, this is the angle you're gonna see it at. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. The back is isn't the smoothest. It's definitely the least smooth Vanquish axle I've ever felt. I actually had a heck of a time getting the ring gear in there with the retainers and the bearing retainers. It's not bad. I think it's gonna smooth out. It could be just the set of gears that I got. Like I said, I've never had that issue before, but I mean, it's not hard to turn. But I shimmed it up a little bit, and it's doing pretty good. The front is just absolutely buttery smooth. So, happy with the front for sure. So, all right, I'm gonna get back to work, hit you guys with more time lapse, and check back in as things come up. All right, guys, we got ourselves a roller. We got the transmission in, little snafu, forgot a bearing. Got it all assembled, looked. One extra bearing, no big deal, took it apart. Feels super smooth. Those lightweight gears, first time using those, really nice. They do save a ton of weight. You can just tell by the gears you take out, the ones you put in, huge difference. Got our 2700 10 shooter in there. I always go with the wires out the left side, driver's side of a VFD. You just got to make sure you get them as high as possible because the drive shaft comes in right there. Otherwise, I kind of have issues with, you know, getting the transmission to sit all the way down and interfering with the mount over here. Personal preference. I went with an 11-tooth pinion in there, so I dropped 2 teeth, and I went with underdrive in the axles. So we're gonna have a pretty deep gear ratio. I'm thinking 2700 4S, definitely to get the most out of the servo anyway. I think we'll be good. I think we'll have pretty good low speed control, and it should have plenty of speed. We went ahead, you guys probably saw, went ahead and refilled the shocks. They were already leaking a little bit. Put 50 weight in all 4 corners. Took a little bit of the preload out. The heavier weight kind of made it feel a little too stiff. There was a little preload in from the factory, so I just basically raised them all the way up. We got blue springs on here. They feel pretty good. You guys can see we got the HD 44s under there. They look pretty sweet. Push the front bumper in just to the furthest end. Got our Three Brother RC in here. I had to remove the little scale fan and fan shroud or fan guard, the one right in front of the servo. Just the wires that come out of that Three Brothers are very stiff, and I didn't really want to pinch them too bad, so they don't serve any purpose. Not a big deal. Still got to get our battery tray in there. Next, we got to get our copper head in here. We got to get radio, kind of clean the wiring up. Truck like this, I do like to have the wiring pretty decent. I gotta look and see how the body's gonna work with that bumper being pushed all the way in, and as well as the extended wheelbase. So we extended the front lowers. I ended up not using those links with the Traxxas rod ends. They were way too long, way too much caster. The geometry was all out of whack. I ended up just unthreading them a little bit to check and make sure they fit. I'm gonna order the right size, but I'm looking for right around 106 millimeter lowers. And then my upper, that titanium link, did work out. And I don't remember the length, but it was like 1.5 millimeters over stock. So we're gonna go to about 3.5, 4 millimeters longer in the lowers. And then about 1.5 millimeters, maybe 2 millimeters longer on the upper. Increase our caster just a hair, but yeah, the rear links worked out just fine. We got titanium on the bottom, like I said, and the low profile stainless up top, but not the ones that are as skinny as the RTR. I also put a big steering tie rod up front. It doesn't need to be curved because of these HD 44s and the way the pumpkin is. It could honestly be, it could be straight. So maybe I'll order one of those too in titanium, but glad to fix that because that's going to be the first thing to hit a lot of rocks, and compared to this little thin guy, we're going to be a lot stronger. You guys can kind of see the truck's basically done. Really no surprises along the way. Feels good. The rear axle feels fine in the truck. Suspension feels smooth. It's kind of funny, I've been running flat rails and stuff, and their suspension is just a lot softer, a lot less weight. So it feels stiff to me, but I'm liking it. So boom, just like that, we're done-ish. There's actually one last thing I need to do, but I'm waiting on the parts, and it really is not that pivotal. It's more just a minor detail that I just don't want to let go unsolved. But we got the Fordyce here, all reassembled. You can see those Method 105s in gray there with the blue rings on the outside, scale hardware. These are Vanquish's new Geolanders. That's a Yokohama licensed tire, 475. They actually are 475. They feel good. They're nice and soft, sticky rubber. Tread pattern looks good. Nice looking scale tire for sure. This is the issue basically. The only thing I haven't finished that I would like to finish on this is these lower links. I did order a set, 106 millimeter front lowers. That is for an extended wheelbase. If you're not looking to push your front end out a little bit, a couple millimeters, that is not the correct. It's probably 102, 103, but definitely double check, measure your links, use the link measuring calculator, order the right link, don't just take my word for it. I did go ahead and order a set of titanium links for the panhard and the drag bar. Those aren't the thin, somewhat bendable links that the RTR comes with. I'm going to pop the lid on it and we'll show you what we're working with inside, and then we're going to take this thing out and run it. The wiring is honestly not that perfect. Kind of cinched everything down, make sure it keeps out of moving parts, but not exactly sure the final routing or anything like that, so it is 100% functional though. So on the passenger side, we do have that copperhead ESC, and that's got a JST soldered on along with that XT60. The JST is running to a Three Brothers RC G13 Pro, and that Castle Copperhead is powering that Holmes Hobbies 10 shooter 2700 brushless censored motor. We got my RC8X hooked up to it. Starting to incorporate that radio a little bit more. The receivers are really cheap. My FlySky Noble is pretty much full. Only 20 model memory on that. That's the biggest bummer. This one has a 200 model memory, the radio link, and these R6 FGs, these 6-channel receivers that are good to 15 volts. They have a gyro if you need it. and obviously 6 channels. These are about 10 to 15 bucks a piece, so really affordable. I haven't had any issues with them yet. But other than that, super simple. I probably will eventually make a small little plate for up here for a small little like 450 3S pack, something along those lines, if I want to see how it can perform. But for the most part, I think I am going to run the battery back here. Just a decent sized trail pack from that 1500 all the way up to 4300. We're leaving a little bit of power on the table with only 3S with that Three Brothers Servo. It is good up to 5S. I don't have any 5S batteries, but we may occasionally throw 4S at it. We went really low on the pinion gear. It's an 11 tooth, and we also put underdrive in both axles. So I think on 4S we would be okay, but I've got battery packs in all different sizes for 3S and 4S, so not too worried about it. Other than that though, truck feels pretty good. Everything moves freely, good articulation. Axles look really good under there. If you guys got any questions about the build, if I missed any detail, if you want to see something a little bit better without disassembly involved, hopefully, let me know. I'll send you some pictures, or can post them on my Instagram, whatever it may be, or just answer your question right there on YouTube. But I think that about wraps up the build. Let's take this thing out, let's drive it. The water at the lake, according to the internet, says it's pretty high. So I'm actually going to roll the dice. We're going to go out there. We're going to see if we can do some crawling out there because it is the best terrain local to me. We got to get those first scratches on the axles because the first ones are the hardest, and after that, that's when you can really start waylaying on these things, which it is a toy. That's what they're for. Meant to drive them. Don't let them sit on the shelf and get dusty. A truck like this can definitely take it too. And if it can't, I'll let you guys know. Well, let's get everything packed up and let's head out. All right, y'all, we made it out to the lake. We got the VS4-10 Fordyce, as I've named it. You've seen it on the bench. Saw a 2-part series build on that. Let's get it out. Let's run it. I'm out here at the lake. The water is pretty high. Some of the more technical lines are underwater, but for this, it's perfect. There's a nice little like kind of trail section along the lake. Should be pretty fun. Should serve as a nice little like beat down, shakedown session. See if any bolts got left loose, anything's not working. See if we got any binding or anything like that. I got a 3S 1800 Ovonic pack with me, as well as a 2200 Ovonic 4S. So we're gonna try it on both. We'll do some like basic speed tests just to see how the speed feels on 3S. And then if we think that 4S isn't too much, we're gonna run it on 4S, get all the steering power we can out of that. So like I said, you've seen the truck. Let's hit the trail. All right, so we got the 3S pack in there first. We're just gonna kind of check our slow speed resolution. We do have a Castle ESC in there, Copperhead. I have the fan on and it's screaming pretty good, so we may unplug the fan. We got pretty good low speed resolution. The underdrive gears and the small pinion are helping too. Let's see how much speed it's got. To be honest, it's probably plenty fast, but it's not crazy fast on 3S, so I'd like to run it with the most speed and power we can on that Three Brothers RC G13 Pro. So I'm gonna swap the 4S in, then we're gonna run it over some terrain. All right, I did you all a favor. I unplugged the fan on that Castle Copperhead. It was screaming pretty good. We got 4S in there now. Didn't affect our low speed at all. We still get that Castle whine. She rips pretty good. Definitely faster than you need for, you know, a trail walking speed, but tons of wheel power. But we got tons of wheel speed and all the serving power we can need for sure. So let's hit it. Geolanders seem to be hooking up pretty good so far. They're brand new Vanquish red compound, so they're nice and sticky. See if we make this climb. This is actually I'd be pretty impressed if we could do this. Very nice. To have a trail rig, be able to pull that off. Pretty happy with that. I don't think my VS4-10 Pro would do that. Mostly just because of the body. We're going to try to keep it out of the water. I do have aftermarket foams in there now and don't love drying them off. So if we can, if we end up in the water, so be it. But great approach angle on the front there. Really good departure angle too. This truck so far is proven to be very, very capable. We were hung up on the bumper just a little bit there. I will say, if you move that bumper in like I did, getting the battery in and doing any work on it without pulling the body completely off can be somewhat of a pain. You can't flip the body up quite as high, and I didn't want to cut the body, so let's check our descent. Drag brake feels pretty good, nice and controlled. Hung up on the front bumper there again. Trying to get steered out of the way of the water. All right. Oh, wasn't paying attention and bogged it down. I have been driving a lot of portal trucks lately. That extra clearance on the pumpkin, you kind of get used to it. But oh, we picked up a stick. Picked up some pine needles. So this is the type of running that basically the duty used to be relegated to either my Phoenix, dark blue one. It's been a while since it's been on the channel. I'll link that Phoenix up top just in case you've never seen it, you're new to the channel. But this is the type of running I would do with it or my VS4-10 Pro. Just kind of exploring, not worried about too much hitting perfect lines or going through gates or anything like that. Not really worried about breaking anything.
We got a high stakes line here. Water over there. The reality is, if it fell in the water, it's not really going to hurt much as long as you take care of them after. But I don't really want to tear it apart again, so we're going to try to avoid that. It's kind of funny how we evolve in RC. We go from, it's kind of scoffing at a build like this, or maybe an RTR or a kit that comes with a lot of this stuff, like the VS4-10 Pro or Ultra when they were being made, to them being like, for more or less, your beater, because of their robustness and their reliability. The money you spent getting put to use, and knowing that the truck is going to be used and used hard, but it's also going to hold up to the abuse is kind of interesting to me. So leave a comment down below. Let me know, what was your first, either your first RC or your first one you could really count on, one you started taking out quite a bit. So yeah, has your go-to, your one you like to grab, if you were going to go out with some buddies and do maybe a multiple mile hike / trailing session, what truck would you grab? What's one you know you can count on? I'd be interested to hear what you guys say. Maybe I'm missing some stuff, or maybe y'all have made some upgrades to things I wouldn't have expected. But yeah, leave a comment. Let me know. I'd like to hear from y'all what kind of stuff you're working on and what kind of trucks you favor. So we're getting to the end of this section here, but we got a real technical section of rock to get through. I think it'll do it. Strong servo, good wheel speed, kind of rear tire. Our tires have all pretty much been in the water by now, but look at that. Pulling it out from the depths. Oh, we almost took a plunge there. There we go. We're up. I feel like maybe some printed inserts for this would be good, so I don't have to worry about getting the tires wet. I do still prefer just the everyday performance of a dual stage foam, closed cell inner, open cell outer. But we're getting close to springtime here, and for a trail rig, you know, to baby it over a little bit of water doesn't make much sense. So maybe we'll see. We'll take some measurements of the tires and see if Squid Inserts has some ones that'll work for these new Vanquish Geolanders. I am liking the tires though. Suspension's working good. Honestly, it's not the prettiest, but the truck is going pretty much everywhere I tell it to. Almost didn't film this video today because of how high the water is, but then decided, you know what? This is kind of exactly the type of terrain that I would want to take this thing on. Just kind of looking for fun lines and exploring a little bit. I've never really been this far over, and I wouldn't have if the water was lower, but All right, thanks to everyone for sticking around to see the end of the video, seeing the VS4-10 Fordyce come to fruition. I love it so far. So I mentioned while running, I may change to a 3D printed insert just so I don't have to worry about water, things like that. I'm obviously not going to float it or do any big water crossings or mud bogs. The only other thing I may change is go to a machined slipper eliminator assembly. We still got the plastic one from the Fordyce RTR. Other than that though, the truck's been fortified pretty good. Seems pretty reliable. We only got about 20 minutes on it, but I'm gonna keep running it. Batteries in the GoPro are about to die. I'm gonna run the same route back. If anything comes up, you guys will see it here. But otherwise, we'll catch you next time. See ya.